Somali Nexus. Lighting the path of heritage.
The 14th century Indian Ocean was not a barrier so much as a working system. Monsoon winds set the timetable. Ports did the rest. Merchants moved with cargo. Scholars moved with books and reputations. Officials moved with letters of appointment, or with the confidence that learning would count for something when they stepped ashore. In that world, Abdi Aziz al-Maqdishawi is remembered as a Somali figure who reached the Maldives and held authority there. The sticking point has never been traveled, it has been ranked, and what later memory decided to do with it. Abdi Aziz is associated with the Sultanate of Mogadishu, a city that carried serious prestige in the medieval Western Indian Ocean. At its height, Mogadishu functioned as a commercial center where gold, textiles, ivory, and other goods were brokered and redistributed. A city like that also produced administrators, people trained to keep records, hear disputes, and enforce decisions. Abdi Aziz traveled along the monsoon routes, as countless others did, but he traveled as someone whose credentials could translate into office. Courts noticed that kind of person. They still do. The Maldives at the time were ruled by Sultana Khadija of the Thimuj dynasty, a sovereign whose reign remains unusual in the wider medieval Islamic setting. The islands were scattered, politically complex, and exposed to the pressures of long-distance trade. Authority had to travel across water, and it did not always travel smoothly. The court needed loyal expertise, sometimes from beyond the archipelago, especially legal expertise. Abdi Aziz arrived with a coastal legal culture and with practical knowledge of maritime life. A ruler could use that. A ruler could also be wary of it. Modern retellings sometimes elevate him into a sovereign sultan, a ruler in his own right. The more grounded historical reading generally places him as a senior official. Powerful, certainly. A king, no. The office most often tied to his name is the governorship of Kinolhas, a strategic landfall for ships arriving from the west. That is not a ceremonial post. A governor there would touch arrivals, levies, disputes, and the daily mechanics of order. If he was effective, he would have looked like the state in miniature. The best-known outside testimony comes through Ibn Battuta, whose travel account remains one of the few detailed contemporary windows onto the Maldives. He visited in the mid-1340s. On his first arrival in 1344, he noted a diverse administrative environment shaped by the movement of jurists and scholars across the ocean. He did not, at that stage, describe meeting Abdi Aziz in a formal capacity. That absence may be accidental. Travel writing records what its author thinks is worth recording. It also records who had time for him. By 1346, when Ibn Battuta returned, the scene appears more settled around the Somali official. Landing at Kinolhas, the traveler was received with conspicuous honor by Abdi Aziz himself. Hospitality here was not just politeness. It was a way of demonstrating control. Providing supplies, lodging, and safe onward passage required authority and access to local resources. Abdi Aziz arranged provisions and a vessel for Ibn Battuta to reach the capital. The episode suggests a kind of professional recognition between men trained in the same scholarly and legal world. They did not need introductions. Revenue mattered as much as protocol. The cowry shell, tiny and easy to overlook, carried real weight. Cowries circulated as currency across wide regions of the medieval world, reaching as far as West Africa and the Mali Empire. In the Maldives, their collection and distribution could be organized, monitored, and taxed. A governor at a key landfall would be positioned to supervise parts of that system, whether directly or through oversight of local enforcement. This is where office becomes tangible. It is also where later stories find fuel. The connection between Somalia and the Maldives was not only commercial, it was legal and religious as well. Both regions adhered to the Shafi'i school of Islamic jurisprudence, and that shared framework mattered in daily governance. It shaped what counted as valid procedure, what a court recognized as legitimate authority, and how disputes were argued. A jurist from Mogadishu could arrive in an atoll court and be understood without starting from zero. It did not erase local custom, it reduced friction, and that was often enough. Mogadishu's influence extended into the material life of the islands too. Somali trade networks supplied livestock and luxury items such as musk, goods valued by Maldivian elites for prestige and for use in religious and ceremonial settings. Those imports mattered because courtly life runs on supply. From the Maldivian side, placing a trusted Somali governor at Kinolhas makes strategic sense. Control a gateway, secure flows of goods, and place expertise where arrivals and departures can be watched. It is not romantic, it is governance. Over the centuries, Abdi Aziz's image expanded. In later traditions, he is sometimes elevated from provincial governor to sovereign king, credited with ruling the entire archipelago. The Maldivian court chronicles do not support that claim. They preserve lists of monarchs that do not include Abdi Aziz as a sovereign. But chronicles are not the only archive people keep. Communities remember the person who made decisions, enforced rules, and controlled resources. An official who held power where people lived and traded could easily become royal in the telling, especially when later generations wanted a figure who embodied outside influence or local pride. A critical reading of the record keeps the categories sharper. Succession lists and court documentation do not crown Abdi Aziz. At the same time, his prominence is difficult to dismiss entirely. Contemporary travel accounts point to his importance, and the broader pattern of Somali-Maldivian contact fits the realities of Indian Ocean mobility. Discussion of architectural continuities, including mosque styles along parts of the Somali coast, is sometimes used as supporting context for these sustained connections. That kind of evidence is suggestive, not definitive. It points to contact more than it settles titles. Somali tradition also points to the Abdul Aziz Mosque in Mogadishu, often linked to the governor associated with the Maldives. The implication is a return home and an investment of wealth or patronage in his birthplace. Whether the attribution can be secured beyond tradition is another question. Still, the shape of the story is plausible. People moved, rose, and came back with reputations. Some left buildings, some left only names. Abdi Aziz's tenure hints at a longer pattern in Maldivian governance as well. Incorporating foreign administrative experts into the machinery of the state was not a one-off curiosity. It set a precedent that could be repeated when the court needed specialized legal knowledge, external loyalty, or a stabilizing hand at a sensitive point. Somali influence in this period likely contributed to the strengthening of Islamic institutions and to the Maldives' role as a hub within Indian Ocean commerce. Administrative habit can outlast the administrator. That is one reason his name persisted. Even so, the record does not give everything. Personal details remain unclear, including specific clan affiliation and the exact timing of his departure from the islands. Medieval history often preserves public roles while letting private lives fade. That gap is not a failure of imagination. It is a reminder of what survives and what does not. The outline remains: a Somali official in the Maldives, authority at a strategic landfall, a traveler's account that catches him at work, and a trade commodity that tied the islands to astonishing distances. The story of the Somali governor in the Maldives is therefore more than local biography. It is a case study in a connected oceanic world where authority could be imported, recognized, and made operational. It complicates the modern habit of treating islands as isolation. Abdi Aziz al-Maqdishawi, whether remembered accurately as governor or inflated into a king by later tradition, belongs to the Indian Ocean's history of movement, law, and exchange. The tension at the center remains: what court lists will allow and what lived power, witnessed and remembered, tends to become.
Thank you for watching Somali Nexus. Together, we light the path of heritage. Please subscribe for more.